I noticed this on my first walkthrough of the house. There are these hairline cracks in the tile right here, directly below the break in the banister. Now, the medical examiner said that she saw breaks in the bones that happened at the time of death.
And you said it yourself, Tommy. I mean, there's no way somebody could break their bones while being stuck in a dumbwaiter that can't move.
Unless that person fell through the banister.
And that was four-time Grammy nominee Juel in her new role as Shannon Hughes, the owner of a construction company who uses her knowledge about old houses to solve murders. The series, Crown and Moldering, a fixer-upper mystery, premieres Sunday on the Hallmark Movies and Mysteries channel. And Juel joins us now to discuss this, as well as her latest album, Picking Up the Pieces. Welcome, Juel. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your new show. It seems such an interesting combination of murder plus old houses.
Yeah.
How did you get interested in that?
I was raised in Alaska by a single father, and I was raised on a homestead. So there weren't the male-female roles. I was raised working outside with cattle and horses and mending fences as much as we were inside. And so I loved that in Alaska there wasn't these really highly defined gender roles. And so with this role, she's sort of a very modern woman. She has a sort of a job that's from a male-dominated world, but she's very handy. But really her superpower, in my opinion, is fighting for her intuition, following her gut. And I've been building a mindfulness platform. I was homeless when I was 18. I really suffered from high anxiety, and I developed these tools for myself to help myself overcome anxiety. And I can look back on my life and go, the times I followed my gut or when my life worked out, and when I ignored my gut and listened to my anxiety, my life took bad turns.
Right.
And so I loved that this woman sort of iterated and really embodied what I'm trying to build outside of acting, which is this mindfulness platform.
And it's so great that you're also taking on an executive producer role on the show. So is that the first time you've also been a producer?
Yeah, I think on a TV show, movie series, yeah.
Do you enjoy having that sort of, that level of control as well?
It's really wonderful. Hallmark's an amazing channel, an amazing family to be a part of. My producer, Joel Rice, has really been an amazing mentor for me. And it really allows me to make sure that we're making the script as good as we can and the storyline is as good as it can be. We're filming fast. This happens in 3 weeks.
Oh, you're kidding.
We're doing 3 a year. So
wow.
It's a really tall order to try and
Yeah.
get things done that fast,
Yeah.
but we have a great team.
And so do you love acting as much as the music, or is that sort of a happy second in your heart?
Originally, when I was getting signed to my record deal, I wanted to do both and pursue both, but I realized to have 2 careers simultaneously, you had no time left for your personal life. And I wanted to be a whole human.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just have a great career arm and the rest of me was atrophied. So I decided to let acting go. I did an Ang Lee film and was going to go ahead and pursue acting, and then realized I can't have it all. Like, you just can't have it all. And I wanted to have a healthy, happy, balanced life. And so I gave up acting until Lifetime came to me and I did a movie for them. And then when Hallmark came to me with this, it's just 3-month window. I mean, sorry, 3-week windows.
The timing was right.
Yeah, and I have a 5-year-old, so it was just an easy thing to do as a mom, and it's still fun to be creative.
How has that changed your life, being a mom to a 5-year-old Case, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so great.
Yeah, my 5-year-old's wonderful. It changes your heart. You know, it's like having a Christmas present you unwrap every day, and there's something new that you're unwrapping. It's ever evolving, and one of the reasons I started my mindfulness platform, JuelNeverBroken.com, is to be able to have a place where I can share the things I'm passionate about how do you get parenting fitness, or intimacy fitness, or physical fitness, or emotional fitness, and learn the stuff we need to learn to have harmony in our lives. And how can I do it from home so that I'm not on the road all the time traveling?
Absolutely. And I don't know how you do it, but you also have a new album out, Picking Up the Pieces. What inspired you to make this album?
I wrote my memoir, Never Broken, and my album, Picking Up the Pieces, while I was going through the divorce. And so really it was a return back to myself. I got domesticated, and I don't mean by marriage. I just mean growing up, we kind of start to learn the rules, and that wild part of us that should remain wild got sort of tamed. And for me, the process of writing the book and the record was kind of pruning back some of that and letting the wildness come out again. The emotionality. And so it's a very raw, very emotional, folk, like very lyric-driven record.
And we're going to take a quick listen to some of it. We have a little bit of it right here.
I am my father's daughter. He has his mother's eyes. I am the product of her sacrifice. I am the accumulation of the dreams of generations.
Now, were you That's
coming
amazing.
across
That was
the
your
glaciers.
grandfather?
It's all my family footage, believe it or not.
You're kidding. How
Yeah.
lovely. Were you actually inspired then by your family to write this song?
Yeah, I grew up on a homestead. My family were pioneers, and they helped settle the state. Before it was a state, it was a territory still. So they escaped Germany in the last boat just before the Second World War, and my grandfather hiked over glaciers to make it to this homestead in Alaska where the government gave him land if he promised not to die for a whole winter.
Amazing. So you have grit in your blood. You are
I
a
do.
survivor. That is. And did you write about all of this, obviously, in your best-selling memoir?
Yeah.
So for people who haven't had a chance to read it, give us a quick, roundup of how did you go from being, the daughter of a homesteader in Alaska to being the superstar Juel?
I had a really difficult upbringing. My mom left when I was 8. My dad took over raising us. My dad had had a pretty traumatic upbringing while being raised in a beautiful place. Those pioneers can be two-sided swords, if you will. And so my mom left, he turned to drinking, and he became abusive. And so I moved out at 15, and I knew statistically kids like me don't end up doing well. They end up repeating the cycle they were raised by.
So you knew that even at 15, you were aware of that.
I knew my job was to try and relearn what I call emotional English, where you learn the emotional language I was taught in my house. And where do you go to relearn a new emotional language? It's very difficult. So I began to kind of scientifically try and study, and I did well. I got myself through work, I paid rent, I got myself through school. But flash forward 3 years later, and I ended up homeless because I wouldn't sleep with a boss, and he wouldn't give me my paycheck. I got kicked out where I was living. Then the car I was living in got stolen. And the poverty cycle is very difficult to get out of. But I never compromised who I was or what I was or my values.
How did you get out of it? With your music, with performing?
In my opinion, I honestly think it was mindfulness. That word wasn't around in that day, but I started having severe panic attacks, severe anxiety. I was shoplifting, and I looked in the mirror one day and I went, I am a statistic. I didn't beat the odds. And I had read a quote by Buddha, happiness doesn't depend on who you are, what you have, it depends on what you think. And if I could perceive what I could think, I was something other than what I thought. So what is that? If you can perceive you're sad, you're something other than sad. You're the observer of sad. And so I started developing exercises that helped me develop a relationship with what I call the observer. And I really began learning how to discipline my mind and control my panic attacks and step out of that fear cycle so I could show up in real time and make a difference in my life and stop stealing and start writing. And that's what led to me writing, as I just stayed very busy. I watched my hands, I wrote instead of stole.
Yeah,
and then I got discovered a year later.
Well, you're also such an amazing poet as well. I mean, you've written your memoir, your book of poetry. Would you like to write more? Maybe a follow-up to your memoir?
Yeah, I have another poetry book that I'd like to do. I wrote my memoir as sort of a bridge to let people know that I've spent as much of my life studying nutrition and emotional fitness and other things so that I could figure out how to be a balanced human. I look at our lives like a body, so we can have a very buff career limb, but the rest of us might be atrophied, and we're not going to be happy because we don't have harmony. You have to have tone in every area of your life to actually have happiness.
So you are such a multi-talented person. You have, obviously, talented musician, actress, producer, writer, all of these things. How do you make harmony in your life with all of these things that you want to keep experiencing and developing, plus having a home life with your son?
For me, it's about knowing what my actual goal is. So my goal is to be a whole human. It isn't to be famous, and it isn't to be rich. And so I've made decisions in my career that might have cost me fame or fortune in certain categories. Like I've taken years between records. I quit pursuing major films. I let a lot of things go. I quit touring Asia, Europe, and Australia 10 years ago because I was like, I can't be gone 2 years and maintain a relationship. So you make decisions based on your values, and if you live your values every day, it's like your compass. That's your North Star.
Right.
And so I've tried to really adhere to an authentic life that lived my values.
And you talk about all of this on your site, right?
Yeah.
And you have a community now that's growing. Tell us how that works exactly. People can sign up and share their stories.
Yeah, I'm just teaching people some of the mindfulness exercises that I invented just out of necessity for myself. A renowned scientist named Dr. Judson Brewer signed on as my scientific expert, and he actually explains why my very simple exercises worked from a neurological standpoint, which is really amazing. And I'm starting to build culture. A company that'll start working with culture for companies. So I'm going to probably partner with Zappos most likely, and my friend Tony.
Great.
On working with culture and helping give employees that extra value. Because I think as entrepreneurs, we can solve some of the social issues that politicians can't, when bureaucracies can't. And I think as entrepreneurs, we can.
Absolutely. Well, look at everything that you're doing. You're so impressive, such an inspiration. Juel, thank you so much for coming to see us.